No one believed in the success of this film, not the creators nor the critics. All of Hollywood's biggest stars turned down roles in it. Despite featuring relatively unknown actors and coming at a time when the genre was thought to be dying, the film performed remarkably well at the box office, launched a successful franchise, and earned its place as one of the greatest action movies in cinematic history. Movies Inside Out presents. Die Hard is a 1988 action thriller about a police officer forced to rescue hostages during a terrorist takeover of a skyscraper. How did Bruce Willis almost die on the first day of filming? Why did the director deceive Alan Rickman? Why was the lead actor's face removed from all promotional posters before the premiere? And is Die Hard really a Christmas movie? All this and more will be revealed right now. Sit back and get comfortable. There's a lot of fascinating info ahead. The creation story. The story of Die Hard began in 1979 when author Roderick Thorpe published the thriller novel Nothing Lasts Forever. The book was a sequel to his earlier work The Detective, which had been adapted into a successful crime drama starring Frank Sinatra in 1968. When the executives at 20th Century Fox learned about Thorpe's new novel, they immediately purchased the adaptation rights, but didn't begin development until 1987, 8 years later. At that time, things weren't going well for up-and-coming screenwriter Jeb Stewart. His scripts weren't being turned into films, and his current contracts weren't providing enough income. In desperation, he reached out to Fox, asking if they had any projects for him. Producer Lloyd Levin quickly offered him the chance to adapt Nothing Lasts Forever. Levin gave Stewart creative freedom to make changes to the story, but insisted on one condition: the film had to keep its Christmas setting. Levin believed that a festive backdrop would add a unique atmosphere to the movie. Ironically, considering the adaptation was planned as a summer blockbuster, Fox's contract required them to offer Sinatra the lead role again, but the 71-year-old actor declined. The main reason wasn't his age, but the abundance of effects, explosions, fights, and gunfights that the creators envisioned. Sinatra was convinced he could carry the movie solely through his acting chops, but producers disagreed. After all, it was the 1980s, the era of Rambo-style action films. Speaking of which, check out our video on how the first Rambo was made. Inspired by Stallone's box office hits, Stewart pitched a concept he described as Rambo in an office building. The idea appealed to Fox producers Joel Silver and Larry Gordon. They offered the director's chair to John McTiernan, fresh off his work on Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. McTiernan agreed on the condition that the film include some positive moments rather than being solely about bloodshed and brutality, like most terrorist-centric stories. Stewart, however, struggled to find positivity in the novel's dark plot. He worked 18-hour days but remained dissatisfied with his results. Frustrated, he lashed out at his wife, and after one argument, he stormed out of the house, jumped into his car, and drove aimlessly. Nearly getting into an accident, he pulled over, realizing he could have died without making amends. That moment inspired the central theme of the film, the story of an ordinary man trying to reconcile with his wife. This new direction required a new protagonist. Stewart decided that the seasoned, older security consultant from the novel didn't fit his action-packed vision. Instead, he created a middle-aged police officer and named him John Ford. Fox executives, however, objected to the name, deeming it disrespectful to the late director John Ford. Stewart then settled on the Scottish surname McClane, drawing inspiration from his own Scottish heritage. In June 1987, Stewart presented his completed script to the studio, which greenlit it the very next day, not out of enthusiasm for the work, but out of necessity, as they were racing to release a summer blockbuster in 1988. While Stewart's script was well received, it lacked comedic elements. To address this, the studio brought in another writer, Stephen E. D'Souza, known for blending action and comedy in films like 48 Hours. D'Souza rewrote the script, adjusting its tone and incorporating the perspective of both John McClane and the antagonist, Hans Gruber. Initially, Stewart's story spanned 3 days, but McTiernan wanted the events to unfold over a single night. Additionally, he didn't want to emphasize terrorist motives and asked D'Souza to reframe the villains as common thieves, a more fitting approach for a summer action film. Casting. After Frank Sinatra declined the role of John McClane, the part was offered to numerous Hollywood stars, including Sylvester Stallone, Richard Gere, Clint Eastwood, Harrison Ford, Mel Gibson, Robert De Niro, and Al Pacino. But none of them showed interest in the project. Naturally, the creators also considered Arnold Schwarzenegger. Initially, the movie was even envisioned as a sequel to his hit Commando. However, Schwarzenegger was wary of starring in a follow-up, fearing it might fail. Another reason for his refusal was the fact that most of the terrorists in the film were German, while Schwarzenegger, born in Austria, spoke with a distinctive South German accent. When producers failed to attract Hollywood's top stars, they turned to television actors, a bold move considering that TV and film were largely separate worlds at the time, with Hollywood looking down on television stars. Nevertheless, Fox offered the role of John McClane to Bruce Willis, who was then starring in the hit comedy series Moonlighting, which had earned him a Golden Globe. Interestingly, before approaching Willis, producers conducted a small survey to ensure his involvement wouldn't harm the film's potential. Willis was offered an unprecedented $5 million, a sum typically reserved for established film stars. However, he initially declined due to his contract obligations with Moonlighting. Fortunately, his co-star Sybil Shepherd announced her pregnancy around the same time, causing production on the series to pause for 11 weeks. This break allowed Willis to accept the die-hard role. Unlike Schwarzenegger, Willis's German heritage didn't affect his decision to join the film. The creators wanted McClane to come across as an everyman, not a superhero, making it easier for audiences to relate to him, and Willis was a perfect fit for this image.
Oh, God.
Roy, you all right?
Just trying to fire than a 1,000-year-old Twinkie.
The studio also took a risk by casting Alan Rickman as the main antagonist, Hans Gruber. At 40, Rickman was an acclaimed stage actor with little experience on screen. Producer Joel Silver happened to see him in the Broadway production of Les Liaisons Dangereuses, where Rickman played the scheming Vicomte de Valmont.
It's pretty tricky with that accent. You gotta be on fucking TV with that accent.
Silver instantly knew Rickman would be perfect for the film. Initially, Rickman hesitated, unsure if a Hollywood action film was the right move after his theatrical career. Ultimately, he accepted, seeing it as a valuable experience.
I am an exceptional thief, Mrs. McClane, and since I'm moving up to kidnapping, you should be more polite.
For the role of John's wife, Holly Gennaro McClane, the filmmakers considered actresses like Glenn Close, Gina Davis, Meryl Streep, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Goldie Hawn, but the part went to Bonnie Bedelia. Bruce Willis recommended her after being impressed by her performance in the 1983 sports drama Heart Like a Wheel.
Only John can drive somebody that crazy.
Sergeant Al Powell's role attracted interest from Lawrence Fishburne, Robert Duvall, Gene Hackman, and Wesley Snipes, but casting director Jackie Birch pushed for Reginald VelJohnson, who was already familiar to the team. Powell became VelJohnson's first major film role, earning him $100,000.
But what about the body that fell out the window?
Well, who knows? Probably some stockbroker got depressed.
The role of Carl went to ballet star Alexander Godunov, a Soviet and American performer. Die Hard was his third Hollywood film after his dramatic defection from the USSR.
We do not alter the plan.
And if he alters it.
Interestingly, of all the actors playing German terrorists, only 2 were actually German. Dancer Andreas Wisniewski, who played Tony, and wrestler Wilhelm von Homburg, who portrayed James. The primary criterion for casting the villains wasn't nationality, but an intimidating presence. The pushy TV reporter Richard Thornburg was played by William Atherton, known for the Sugarland Express and Ghostbusters.
All right.
No, está.
Look, you let me in right now, or I call the INS. Comprende?
Limo driver Argyle was portrayed by Devereaux White, who had previously appeared in minor roles in children's and teen projects.
Just drive the car, man.
Hey, come on, you divorced? You separated? She beat you up?
In Thorpe's original novel, Argyle's character disappeared early in the story, and Thornburg didn't exist at all. He was entirely created by screenwriter Jeb Stewart. The filming process. Principal photography for Die Hard began in November 1987 and wrapped up 4 months later in March 1988. Nearly all the scenes were shot in the unfinished headquarters of 20th Century Fox, Fox Plaza, located on Avenue of the Stars in Los Angeles, Century City. The studio allowed the use of the building as Nakatomi Plaza under 2 conditions: no daytime filming and no damage to the property caused by special effects. For the first 2 weeks of production, Bruce Willis was still filming Moonlighting, working on the series until 10 a.m. and then shooting Die Hard at night. To accommodate Willis's grueling schedule, director John McTiernan asked Steven D'Souza to add new scenes featuring secondary characters, giving Willis some time to rest. The first scene Bruce Willis filmed for Die Hard was the iconic rooftop jump with a fire hose tied around McClane's waist. The stunt involved leaping from a 7-meter ledge on the building's parking structure onto an airbag, while a massive explosion of fire erupted nearby. The shockwave hurled Willis dangerously close to the edge of the airbag, terrifying the crew, who feared the worst. Fortunately, Willis was unharmed, but during another scene involving gunfire, he permanently lost 2/3 of his hearing in his left ear due to the loud blanks fired near his head. Willis performed many of his own stunts, such as tumbling downstairs and standing atop a moving elevator. However, for riskier moments, like dangling from the skyscraper, stuntman Kenny Bates stepped in. Since digital effects were not widely used in the 1980s, the filmmakers relied on practical effects and technical ingenuity. Special effects were overseen by Boss Film Studios, led by Academy Award winner Richard Edlund, known for his work on Star Wars. The explosion at the top of Nakatomi Plaza was filmed using a scale model of the building's upper floors. Footage of the miniature blast was combined with shots of the real structure, which was illuminated with floodlights to simulate the glow of the fire. This scene required 6 months of preparation, but the crew had only 2 hours to film it. 3 takes were necessary, with 9 teams and 24 cameras capturing the event from different angles. Contrary to what's seen on screen, no real helicopter was destroyed, only a scaled-down replica. Another dramatic explosion, the fireball in the elevator shaft, was filmed in 2 stages. First, the crew captured a bright flash of light, then shot a real fireball, using forced perspective to make the shaft appear much deeper. The 2 elements were combined using optical printers. Interestingly, this sequence was filmed inside Fox Plaza, and the crew accidentally shattered the windows on one of the floors. One of the few custom-built sets was the floor of Nakatomi Plaza, where the hostages are held. To create a realistic city view from the windows, the crew painted a 120-meter matte backdrop with animated lights, simulating moving traffic, and illuminated windows. For Hans Gruber's fall from the building, Alan Rickman was suspended from a platform. Reports suggest the height ranged from 6 to 21 meters, and dropped onto an airbag in front of a blue screen. Rickman, who had no prior stunt experience, was understandably nervous. McTiernan assured him the stunt was safe, and even jumped from the platform himself to prove it. The director promised Rickman he would be released on the count of 3, but deliberately let him go on 1 to capture an authentic look of surprise on the actor's face. Filming the stunt presented challenges. Cameramen struggled to keep Rickman in focus during his fall, causing the image to blur as he descended. As a result, the close-up shot of Gruber ends abruptly, cutting away when the usable footage ran out. For the wide shot of Gruber falling, stuntman Ken Bates performed a 97-meter jump from Fox Plaza, supported by cables that slowed his descent as he neared the ground. Rickman faced another challenge during production, handling firearms. As a theater actor with no experience in action films, he would flinch and blink whenever firing a gun, a problem for portraying a ruthless terrorist. To solve this, McTiernan used wide shots during shooting scenes to hide Rickman's involuntary reactions. One of the film's most memorable scenes, where Gruber pretends to be a Nakatomi employee, was not in the original script. D'Souza came up with the idea after hearing Rickman attempt an American accent and realizing it could add a compelling twist to the story, heightening tension during McClane and Gruber's encounter.
No bullets. Fucking stupid, Hans.
Fans have long wondered how McClane discovered Gruber's true identity in the scene. A deleted moment would have revealed that all the terrorists wore identical watches. McClane was supposed to notice these watches on the dead criminals and then spot the same one on Gruber during their meeting. Although McClane appears barefoot throughout most of the film, Bruce Willis wore specially made rubber feet for protection during dangerous scenes. These prosthetic covers were designed to mimic bare feet perfectly, including anatomical details. McClane's iconic line,
"Yippee-ki-yay, mother..."
which appears in every film of the franchise, was inspired by cowboy slang, particularly phrases used by Western actor Roy Rogers. The original score was composed by Michael Kamen, known for his work on Highlander and Lethal Weapon. However, the climactic scene where Powell shoots Carl features an unused track by James Horner from Aliens. One amusing detail involves a line where Deputy Chief Robinson speculates that McClane might just be a bartender.
Could be a f***ing bartender for all we know.
A nod to Bruce Willis's real-life experience working as a bartender when he first moved to New York. The line reinforces McClane's relatable, everyman persona, reminding viewers that he is no different from them. Movie mistakes and errors. Die Hard is a beloved action classic, cherished by millions, despite its numerous mistakes. But for us, these quirks add a touch of absurdity to the film. Let's dive in and start counting. Weapon on board. John travels on the plane as an ordinary passenger, yet somehow manages to bring a gun on board. Looks like airport security decided not to argue with a guy like him. Time of day magic. Holly mentions it's already 5:40 p.m. and it should be dark in Los Angeles.
Jenny, it's 5:40.
But the window shows only twilight, and in the next scene, surprise, it's still daytime. Apparently, sunsets in LA love keeping everyone guessing. Traveling teddy bear. John's teddy bear is first sitting in the middle of the back seat, then magically moves to the window. Maybe it just wanted a better view. Letter confusion. Holly's last name, Gennaro, changes from A to E on the monitor. Looks like the screen decided to experiment with spelling. Clumsy terrorist. If Hans's walk were just a bit longer, we'd see a terrorist on the left bumping into the wall. Maybe he's channeling Casper the Ghost and phasing through walls? Invisible neighbors. John spies on a woman in the window of a neighboring building, yet exterior shots show no other skyscrapers around Nakatomi Plaza. It must be a window to a parallel universe. Unprepared terrorists. The terrorists plan a meticulous heist, but forget to find out what the company's director looks like. Guess they didn't have time for a Google search. Or maybe 1980s, Google was just too slow. The dead Tony. Tony, supposedly dead, blinks and even turns his head before Hans touches him. Looks like he wanted to drop a hint that he's still alive. The shifting rifle. During John's jump, his rifle mysteriously switches from his right hand to his left. The shirt that changes colors. John starts with a white tank top, climbs through an air duct wearing a khaki one, returns to a light-colored shirt, and then back to dark again. His shirt gets more wardrobe changes than he does. Two-way radio magic. John and Hans interrupt each other on the radio, even though walkie-talkies technically only allow one person to speak at a time. They must have some special kind of connection. Spy cameras. Static security cameras somehow manage to track people's movements. These cameras must come with built-in AI. Helsinki or Stockholm. The expert refers to the Helsinki syndrome when he clearly means Stockholm syndrome.
Should be going through the early stages of the Helsinki syndrome.
As in Helsinki, Sweden.
Maybe the director added this mistake to poke fun at the expert. The miracle board. Hans identifies himself as Bill Clay while looking at a directory board that is turned toward John. Apparently, Hans has X-ray vision, barefoot, but not really. John, supposedly barefoot, wears protective rubber socks. Leaping logistics. John jumps off the roof, stops between floors, and then lands at the exact window he needs. And how he ends up on his stomach after falling on his back is a mystery for the ages. The truck that multiplies. A car inexplicably appears out of the terrorist's truck, despite it not being there earlier. The director admitted this mistake, explaining the idea came after filming had already begun. Argyle's limo. Argyle crashes the limo into the van, smashing it up, yet by the end of the movie, the car looks nearly untouched. Apparently, the limo comes with a self-repair feature. Die Hard may have its share of flaws, but it remains a fan-favorite action masterpiece. Which of these goofs surprised or amused you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. Deleted scenes and bloopers. Fortunately for Die Hard fans, a special DVD edition includes a selection of deleted and extended scenes, such as an extended opening sequence on the plane, additional dialogue during John and Hans's first meeting, as well as between Hans and Takagi during the interrogation, and Hans and Carl arguing over neutralizing McClane, a longer scene of Robinson and Powell briefing the FBI about the Nakatomi takeover, a moment where the city engineer coughs loudly before pulling the power cord, along with a more detailed depiction of the blackout, an extra line following Theo's comment about pretty eyes, an alternate exchange between McClane and Powell after John uses plastic explosives, a scene of FBI agents getting stuck in thorn bushes while making their way to the skyscraper, Argyle delivering a line with Powell in the background, an additional joke in the final scene where John asks if Holly has a warranty on her Nakatomi brand watch, prompting her to laugh in response. Which of these scenes would you have liked to see in the final cut? The German release version has an interesting story. In West Germany, there was significant reluctance to release a film in which almost all the antagonists were German. Moreover, the FRG government meticulously suppressed any references to extremism within the country, so the localizers had to work hard to bring Die Hard to German theaters. In the German dub, all the terrorists were changed to Irish nationals and given English names. Hans Gruber became Jack, Carl turned into Charlie, Heinrich was renamed Henry, and so on. Additionally, references to the terrorists being members of a radical West German movement.
Maybe this man, Hans Gruber, a member of the radical West German Volksfrei movement,
were replaced with the suggestion that they were simply from somewhere in Europe. Of course, filming Die Hard wasn't without its share of funny moments and bloopers. Let's laugh along with the cast.
And action, bang. Bam. Your action.
You're saying action? Okay. That's Paris in the spring.
Oh no, you stupid Frankfurters, you! And cut! And cut! We got
Entertainment
it tonight!
Worldwide recognition. Studio executives didn't have high hopes for Die Hard. the absence of major action stars like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, who were releasing new films at the time, significantly reduced John McTiernan's film's chances of dominating the box office. Additionally, Bruce Willis not only lacked a massive fan base, but also earned a reputation during the marketing campaign as an arrogant and conceited actor, an image fueled by the media due to his refusal to give them the answers they wanted. Influenced by this narrative, some moviegoers were even considering boycotting the film. Fearing a colossal failure, Fox replaced all movie posters, removing Willis's face and leaving only an image of the skyscraper. Die Hard premiered on July 12th, 1988, at the Avco Theater in Los Angeles, and was released in limited theaters on July 15th, playing in 21 locations. Contrary to pessimistic expectations, the early screenings went well, leading to Willis's face being reintroduced in promotional materials. Around the same time, a variety of merchandise hit the shelves, followed later by video games and comic books. On July 22nd, the film entered wide release in 1,276 theaters. Although it didn't take the top box office spot, it remained in the top 5 for 10 consecutive weeks. Ultimately, Die Hard grossed $83 million domestically and another $57.7 million internationally, totaling $140.7 million. With a production budget of $28 million, this result was excellent, landing it among the top 10 highest-grossing films of 1988. Interestingly, comedies dominated the box office that year, with even established action stars' films like Rambo 3 and Red Heat falling short of studio expectations. Thus, the enormous success of an action film starring a relatively unknown TV actor was nothing short of extraordinary. Critics didn't immediately align with audiences' glowing reviews. Initial responses to Die Hard were mixed. Most praised its strong direction and impressive special effects, but criticized the screenplay, excessive violence, and doubted Willis's dramatic abilities. However, Alan Rickman received near-universal acclaim for his portrayal of Hans Gruber, which critics hailed as the perfect villain. In 2003, the American Film Institute ranked Hans Gruber among the top 50 villains of all time. Over time, critics reassessed their opinions, recognizing Die Hard as one of the best and most influential action films in cinema history. In 2003, it earned a spot in the book 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. Just try not to die on the 101st with so many movies to watch. Despite action films rarely receiving recognition at prestigious award shows, Die Hard secured 4 Oscar nominations for Best Sound, Best Film Editing, Best Sound Editing, and Best Visual Effects. The film was also highly praised in Japan, winning the Blue Ribbon Award and the Japan Academy Prize for Best Foreign Film. Unsurprisingly, the film's overwhelming success spawned an entire franchise around John McClane. Die Hard 2 followed in 1990, Die Hard with a Vengeance in 1995, and after a 12-year gap, Live Free or Die Hard premiered in 2007. The final installment, A Good Day to Die Hard, arrived in 2013. Interestingly, each sequel achieved greater commercial success than the original. Critics generally approved of all the sequels except the last one, noting that John McClane gradually morphed into the kind of invincible super cop the creators of the first film had initially tried to avoid. Die Hard instantly catapulted Bruce Willis into the ranks of Hollywood's biggest stars. John McClane remained his favorite role, but sadly, Willis will never reprise it. In 2022, he retired from acting due to progressing dementia. The film also launched Alan Rickman's Hollywood career. While audiences will always remember him as Severus Snape from the Harry Potter franchise, Rickman passed away in 2016 from pancreatic cancer. For the supporting cast, Die Hard had little impact on their careers. They continued acting in less prominent films and TV series. Director John McTiernan went on to direct several more films, including the franchise's third installment, before retiring in 2003. Die Hard achieved cult status, revitalizing and redefining the action genre. It set a benchmark for many 1990s action films, such as Under Siege, Cliffhanger, Speed, and Air Force One. Interestingly, in 2018, Fox officially declared Die Hard one of the greatest Christmas movies, releasing a special holiday-themed trailer. McTiernan and D'Souza also consider it a Christmas film, though Bruce Willis always maintained it was a summer blockbuster with a unique setting.
Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Fans continue to debate whether Die Hard qualifies as a Christmas movie. Do you enjoy rewatching Die Hard during the holiday season?